The essence of perseverance. Perseverance isn't just about surviving tough times, it's about thriving despite them. Imagine being trapped in a war camp for over 7 years. Enduring torture and isolation. How does one emerge not just alive, but with their soul intact? This is the story of James Stockdale. A man who faced such a reality and came out stronger. His secret? Stoicism, a philosophy that teaches us how to endure life's hardships without losing our humanity. In this exploration, we'll dive deep into the principles of Stoicism, illustrated with real-life examples, personal insights, and stories that resonate with the essence of perseverance. Chapter 1: The Philosophy of Endurance. Stoicism, a brief history and core tenets. Stoicism, founded in the early 3rd century BCE by Zeno of Citium, is a philosophy that teaches the development of self-control and fortitude as a means of overcoming destructive emotions. The Stoics believed that becoming a clear and unbiased thinker allowed one to understand the universal reason, logos. The philosophy flourished in the Roman Empire and was practiced by the likes of Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca. Key tenets. Virtue is the highest good. Stoics believe that living virtuously, in accordance with nature and reason, is the only true good. Emotions are the result of errors in judgment. Stoicism teaches that negative emotions are due to our misinterpretation of external events. Focus on what you can control. Stoics emphasize the importance of focusing on what is within our control and accepting what is not. James Stockdale's ordeal. James Stockdale was an American vice admiral and aviator who was shot down during the Vietnam War. Captured by the North Vietnamese, he was held in the infamous Hanoi Hilton for over 7 years. Despite the extreme torture and isolation, Stockdale managed to maintain his moral integrity and leadership among his fellow prisoners. How? By practicing Stoicism. Details of his imprisonment. Stockdale faced brutal interrogations and was often subjected to solitary confinement. However, instead of succumbing to despair, he used the principles of Stoicism to maintain his inner peace and strength. He refused to be used for propaganda, even going as far as disfiguring himself to prevent the Vietnamese from using him in their campaigns. Application of Stoicism. Stockdale accepted that while he could not control his captors or his circumstances, he could control his response. He focused on maintaining his personal values and leadership, helping others to endure their suffering as well. Reflecting on Stockdale's story, we can draw parallels to our own lives. While most of us will never face the horrors of a POW camp, we all encounter challenges that test our endurance. By embracing the Stoic principles of self-control and focusing on what we can control, we can navigate our own hardships with grace and integrity. Chapter 2: Accepting Fate, Amor Fati. The concept of amor fati. Amor fati, a Latin phrase meaning love of fate, is a central concept in Stoicism. It calls for not just acceptance, but a deep love of everything that happens, even the painful or challenging events. This philosophy teaches that everything that happens for a reason, and it is up to us to find meaning and value in every experience. The philosophical roots. Friedrich Nietzsche popularized the term in modern philosophy, but it has deep roots in Stoic thought. The idea is that by loving your fate, you align yourself with the natural order of the universe, thus finding peace and happiness. The power of acceptance. Acceptance doesn't mean passive resignation. It means understanding that every moment, good or bad, is a part of the grand design of your life. By embracing your fate, you free yourself from the anxiety of wishing things were different. Imagine a young athlete who, after years of training, faces a career-ending injury. While many might succumb to despair, A Stoic would see this as an opportunity to grow in other areas of life. This athlete might channel their discipline into coaching, mentoring, or even pursuing a new passion altogether. Embracing suffering as a path to growth. Stoicism teaches that suffering is an inevitable part of life. But it is also an opportunity for growth. By embracing suffering, you not only endure it but transform it into a source of strength. Nelson Mandela, after spending 27 years in prison, emerged not bitter but as a symbol of reconciliation and peace. He used his suffering to grow as a leader, embodying the principle of amor fati. In my own life, I remember a time when I faced overwhelming personal loss. It felt as though the world had collapsed around me. But by embracing the pain, by accepting it as a part of my journey, I discovered a strength I never knew I had. It wasn't about getting over the loss but about integrating it into my story, making it a source of power rather than a point of weakness. Chapter 3: The Futility of Complaining. Why complaining destroys perseverance. Complaining is a natural reaction to adversity. But it can be a trap. When we complain, we give power to our hardships. Stoicism teaches us that complaining doesn't change our situation, it only reinforces our negative emotions, making it harder to endure. The psychology of complaining activates the brain's stress response, which can perpetuate feelings of helplessness and frustration. Over time, habitual complaining can rewire the brain to focus more on the negative, making it harder to find solutions or see the positive in any situation. Throughout history, we can find examples of individuals and societies that have fallen due to their inability to rise above their circumstances and their tendency to complain. The fall of Rome. Some historians argue that the decline of the Roman Empire was partly due to the complacency and constant complaints of its citizens. Instead of adapting to the changing world, many Romans chose to lament their losses, leading to a gradual weakening of their society. Complaining in modern times. In today's world, the culture of complaining is pervasive. Social media platforms often amplify negative sentiments, creating echo chambers of dissatisfaction. This not only affects individual well-being but can also lead to larger societal issues. During the COVID-19 pandemic, many people turned to social media to express their frustrations. While it's important to voice concerns, the constant flood of complaints created an atmosphere of despair and helplessness, making it harder for communities to come together and find solutions. Moral of the story: complaining, in fact, makes it harder to endure. Marcus Aurelius argued that you can endure anything by thinking it's endurable. If you allow yourself to complain, you're defeating yourself. You may be able to get through something by complaining, but that will not leave your good nature intact. To exercise virtue in the face of adversity, we must have control over our own minds. Chapter 4: It's not the end of the world. Perspective in the face of loss. Epictetus reminds us that what we think we've lost is simply returned. This perspective is liberating. It allows us to see that our struggles, while painful, are not the end of our story. The world existed before our troubles, and it will continue after. When we experience loss, it's easy to become consumed by it. However, by shifting our perspective, we can see that life continues. And so can we. This mindset doesn't diminish the pain of loss but helps us to place it in the larger context of our lives. During the Great Depression, millions of people lost their jobs, homes, and savings. Yet, many found ways to adapt and survive. Communities came together to support one another, and individuals found new ways to make a living. This resilience in the face of overwhelming adversity is a testament to the human spirit's ability to endure. I once faced a significant career setback that felt like the end of the world at the time. However, by stepping back and gaining perspective, I realized that this was just one chapter in my life. I used the experience as a stepping stone to something better. And in the end, it led me to opportunities one never would have considered otherwise. BoJack Horseman and the Philosophy of Life's Continuation. In the final episode of BoJack Horseman, BoJack says, "Life's a bitch and then you die. Right?" Diane responds, "Sometimes. Sometimes life's a bitch and then you keep living." This dialogue encapsulates a profound truth: life continues. Regardless of how difficult it may seem. Our task is to keep living, keep striving, and find meaning despite the hardships. This philosophy is particularly relevant in today's fast-paced world, where the pressure to succeed can lead to feelings of despair when things go wrong. By adopting the Stoic perspective that life continues, we can learn to navigate setbacks with grace and resilience. The power of continuity. Life won't always be suffering. But life is contingent on suffering. When we lose an opportunity, a loved one, or when life is just bad, the best thing to do is live virtuously no matter what. This difficulty will end. You will end. We can only control our response to that. Chapter 5, Taking Action. Don't just sit there. The importance of active perseverance. Stoicism isn't about passive endurance. It's about actively engaging with our challenges. Seneca teaches us that putting off action is the biggest waste of life. By taking immediate, rational action, we regain control over our lives. The trap of procrastination. Procrastination is one of the biggest barriers to perseverance. When we delay action, we allow our problems to grow and multiply. Seneca's advice is clear: live immediately. Don't let the uncertainty of the future paralyze you. Winston Churchill. During World War II, Winston Churchill faced immense pressure as the Prime Minister of Britain. Instead of succumbing to fear or indecision, Churchill took decisive action, rallying his country to stand firm against the Nazi threat. His leadership exemplifies the Stoic principle of taking action in the face of overwhelming odds. In my own life, I've found that action, no matter how small, is the antidote to despair. When I focus on what I can do, rather than what I can't, I feel empowered. It's not about solving everything at once, but about taking the next step forward. When I was struggling with a major project at work, the task seemed insurmountable. However, instead of letting the enormity of the task overwhelm me, I broke it down into smaller, manageable steps. By taking action each day, I was able to complete the project successfully. And the sense of accomplishment was immense. Persevering is active. We don't persevere by shutting down until it's over. We persevere by responding rationally to our hardships. We persevere by determining the most virtuous course of action. Persevere immediately. Chapter 6, Demand Better, Strive for Excellence. The danger of settling. Epictetus warns us against becoming complacent. When we're in the midst of struggle, it's easy to lower our standards, to accept mediocrity. But Stoicism challenges us to demand the best from ourselves, even in the hardest times. Excellence is not about perfection, but about striving to be the best version of ourselves. When we settle for less, we deny our potential and miss out on the growth that comes from pushing our limits. Vincent van Gogh, despite facing immense personal struggles and never achieving recognition in his lifetime, Van Gogh refused to lower his standards. He continued to strive for excellence in his art, leaving behind a legacy that has inspired millions. His perseverance in the face of adversity is a testament to the power of striving for greatness. Marie Curie, the first woman to win a Nobel Prize, faced significant obstacles in her scientific career, including sexism and limited resources. However, she never settled for mediocrity and continued to push the boundaries of science. Her relentless pursuit of excellence led to groundbreaking discoveries in radioactivity. There have been times when I've been tempted to settle, to accept less because the path seemed too hard. But every time I've pushed through, demanding more from myself, I've been rewarded, not necessarily with external success, but with the deep satisfaction of knowing I gave my best. In my career, there have been moments where I could have taken the easy way out, accepted a job that was just good enough, or avoided taking on challenging projects. However, by choosing to demand more from myself, I've been able to achieve far more than I ever thought possible. The journey was difficult, but the rewards were worth it. The power of striving. Like we said, you can either persevere or stop. Either way, we are dying at some point. As Epictetus says, we can die ordinary if we choose to not persevere. Everything ends at some point. But there is power in the choice to persevere. A hardship can either end because we act to make it end, or we die. We have some control over when our suffering ends. Chapter 7: Stop torturing yourself. The role of self-compassion. Epictetus teaches us that much of our suffering is self-inflicted. We often judge ourselves harshly, turning mistakes into character flaws. But true perseverance requires self-compassion. It's about recognizing our humanity and allowing ourselves to learn and grow from our experiences. The importance of self-compassion. Self-compassion involves treating ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer a friend. Instead of harshly criticizing ourselves for failures, we can acknowledge our mistakes and learn from them without adding unnecessary suffering. Self-compassion research. Studies in psychology have shown that self-compassion leads to greater resilience, better mental health, and a stronger ability to persevere through challenges. People who practice self-compassion are more likely to bounce back from setbacks and continue striving towards their goals. Consider the story of a student who fails an important exam. If they engage in harsh self-criticism, they may become discouraged and give up on their studies. However, if they practice self-compassion, they can acknowledge their disappointment, learn from their mistakes, and prepare more effectively for the next exam. I've been my own worst critic at times, beating myself up for failures and shortcomings. But when I've approached myself with compassion, I've found that I'm more capable of growth. Instead of being paralyzed by self-doubt, I'm motivated by the desire to improve. After a particularly challenging project at work where I made several mistakes, I found myself spiraling into self-criticism. However, by consciously practicing self-compassion, I was able to view my mistakes as learning opportunities. This shift in mindset not only helped me improve my performance in future projects but also improved my overall well-being. The difference between judgment and fact. Instead of saying, "I lost my job because I'm lazy and stupid," you can say, "I lost my job because I did not meet the requirements for it." The difference between those two sentences is that one is reporting a judgment and the other is reporting a fact. We suffer less when we rationally map why things happen. Chapter 8: Utilize your inner resources. Finding strength within. Stoicism teaches us that we have inner resources we may not even be aware of. In times of crisis, it's important to dig deep and find the strengths that lie within us. These resources, courage, resilience, creativity, are what will carry us through. The power of inner resources. When we face challenges, our natural instinct might be to look outside ourselves for solutions. However, Stoicism teaches that true strength comes from within. By tapping into our inner resources, we can find the resilience needed to overcome even the most daunting obstacles. Helen Keller, who was blind and deaf from a young age, overcame incredible odds to become a renowned author and activist. Despite her disabilities, she used her inner strength and determination to achieve what many thought was impossible. Keller's story is a powerful example of how inner resources can lead to extraordinary accomplishments. Steve Jobs, co-founder of Apple Incorporated, faced numerous setbacks throughout his career, including being ousted from the very company he helped build. Instead of giving up, Jobs tapped into his creativity and resilience, eventually returning to Apple and leading it to unprecedented success. His story is a testament to the power of inner resources in overcoming adversity. In my toughest times, I've discovered strengths I didn't know I had. Whether it was the courage to face a difficult truth or the resilience to keep going when everything seemed lost, these inner resources have been my anchors. There was a time in my life when I faced a major health scare. The uncertainty and fear were overwhelming. But by digging deep into my inner resources, patience, hope, and determination, I was able to navigate the situation with strength. This experience taught me that we all have untapped potential within us, waiting to be discovered in times of need. Using inner resources to overcome challenges. When we encounter difficulties, it's easy to feel overwhelmed and helpless. However, by turning inward and tapping into our inner resources, we can find the strength to persevere. Whether it's creativity and problem solving, resilience in the face of adversity, or the courage to take bold action, these inner resources are invaluable tools in our journey through life. Conclusion: the philosophy of perseverance. Perseverance is more than just enduring, it's about thriving in the face of adversity. Through the wisdom of Stoicism, we learn that we have the power to control our response to life's challenges. By accepting our fate, refraining from complaining, taking action, demanding better, and utilizing our inner resources, we can emerge stronger, wiser, and more resilient. The next time you face a challenge, remember that it's not just about getting through it, it's about who you become in the process. Life's trials are not meant to break you, but to build you. Embrace them, learn from them, and let them shape you into the best version of yourself.